Why so serious?
Why it's not
Working.
I'm sorry.
Hello? Right. I won't give you a speech. I would rather tell you a story. I think you are also serious because you have grown out of being cheerful for no reason, because we are not children anymore. Today, I want to become children again for like 8 minutes. Thanks. Let's have a look. What do all these people have in common?
Yeah,
Like most of us, they are pirates.
right. Pirates.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Why did it? I'm sorry, did it have to
will you?
Are you sure? Alright. I will shout. Okay. As a child, I adored adventures. I adored the old stories where when the world was big and they were sailing ships and discovering new lands, like as if we discovered new planets right now. So I loved pirate stories as a child. I loved pirate books, and of course I loved films and cartoons about pirates. These are my real ears, by the way. Yes. And now I will tell you about one of the greatest men of the 16th century, and his name is Francis Drake. Look at him. He looks like a nobleman of England of 16th century, right? From the school course of geography, we know that he was a vice admiral of England. He carried out the second circumnavigations and was the first one to came alive from it, right? And he's also the widest strait between Antarctica and Tierra del Fuego. But he was also a pirate. Because let's have a look at his story. He was born in 1514 in a small Protestant family, and we have to understand the context. This was the time of Maria Tudor or Bloody Mary. And when you call someone bloody, you do it for a bloody good reason, I'm sorry. She harassed Protestants, and Drake's family were Protestants, so he was harassed. His family has to flee to another county. He struggled for his life. As a teenager, he apprenticed as a cabin boy on a ship. And guess what? We don't know exactly what he did to stand out from the crowd, but the owner of the ship bequeathed the bark to Drake. So, at like the age of 20-ish, he became an owner of his own ship and used it. Let's have a look at Drake's logic. We know that he's a Protestant and was harassed by Catholics, and at that time England were rival to Spain and vice versa. The Spain was actually the center of Catholicism. When Drake was young, his small fleet was almost completely destroyed by Spanish ships, so he wanted revenge to Spain, and Spain was his enemy. And for the rest of his life, he would load Spanish ships, he would attack Spanish colonies, he would devastate Spanish towns in South America, etc. And at the age of just 23, Drake became a nightmare to Spain. In his voyages and travels, he captured a whole lot of Spanish silver and gold. So he was a criminal. But guess what? In England, he was actually considered as a hero. Why? The fact is that the half of his treasures he gave to crown, to Elizabeth I, which ascended the throne after Maria Tudor, right? And he was loved by the Queen. In fact, the treasures he captured would cover all the national debts of England. Yeah, a pirate paid for England. and his treasures, the queen's part, was actually bigger than the rest of the income of the crown of the whole year. So that was a lot, not bad for a filibuster, right? So from this we can see that the difference between a criminal and a hero is the amount of money you give to the crown. Drake's greatest achievements are, as I've said before, the second circumnavigation of the world, in which he has made a range of discoveries, like he discovered the Drake's Strait, and he discovered also that Tierra del Fuego is not a part of Antarctica as had been considered before, but an archipelago. And he also helped England to destroy the Spanish ultimate weapon, the Spanish Armada, the invincible Armada, as they had said. But Drake put an end to it. He was in the head of an English fleet when the Spanish Armada tried to conquer England and failed. So, right. For his achievements, Drake was awarded a knighthood by Elizabeth I, and we remember that he was a poor guy from an only family, right? So, he got his own crest, and these two stars symbolize the the pole star and the not pole star, but on the other pole. This is symbolical. Right. Unfortunately, the sunset of Drake's career was not as brilliant as his sunrise had been. At the age of his life, at like his middle 50s, Drake suffered a range of defeats from Spain, from Portugal, and Elizabeth I turned away from him. She turned out not to be so grateful. Francis Drake died in his last voyage of dysentery, and before he died, he asked to be dressed in his full armor, so he actually died like a knight. He is buried at sea. Now, something interesting I've got for you. During my research, I came across a fact that I had not expected to find actually. Is the fact that there is a whole number of legends connected with Drake. This is surprising because Drake lived in 16th century, and this is almost not the Middle Ages, it's late Middle Ages. And why? He was a historical figure, not some king Arthur. But these two guys have something in common, remember it, right? It is said that when Francis Drake was introduced to Elizabeth I, he covered his eyes as if he wanted to show that he is blinded by her glory and her beauty, and of course he flattered her, but Elizabeth I liked it. And this was the beginning of a tradition of saluting in the army. So it was brought by a criminal. Isn't it ironic? Right. The second story. Drake captured so much treasures from Spanish ships that he couldn't even carry all of them, so he buried a lot on an island. From this emerged a legend and a stereotype of pirates burying treasures on desert islands and etc. Right? We know it from the Treasure Island. The third thing, I think you hadn't known about it. The drum and Drake would come from the dead, like King Arthur. Right, and he will protect England, so legend says. Right, and there is one more thing I want to tell you. Does anyone know? What did this computer do to my presentation? I don't know. Okay, I will tell you like that. Okay, does anyone know what is the wild hunt?
Yeah.
Not exactly. Did anyone play the Witcher? Okay. No, don't mind. Never mind. The wild hunt is a popular folklore motif. It actually appears in a number of mythologies of different parts of the world, like Nordic mythology, Celtic mythology, and it is very alike in all these things. The point is, the Wild Hunt is a group of ghostly or supernatural things, heroes, that are passing by in a hut, and they have a pack of dogs. In different nations, this sign is perceived differently. For example, for the Celtic people, it was a very bad sign, like a sign of death. My point is, there were also a number of the leaders of this wild hunt. One of these was, for example, Cain, the Odin. Odin was also a leader of the wild hunt, like the Odin. Okay. Gabriel, I don't know why, because he is not connected to death anyway, almost. And also King Arthur, which I have mentioned before, and Francis Drake too. So he is in this group of interesting historical half-made-up people. And I think this is quite fascinating. I've also had a very interesting picture of the wild hunt, but we can't see it. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. It just happens. You can Google it, alright. So this is like everything I wanted to tell you about. And